Hi, welcome to Q's Garage. Today what we're going to be doing is replacing the stock radiator on this 1980 Triumph Spitfire with a high-performance aluminum radiator. The stock radiator is working fine, but the high temperatures we have here in South Florida catch up with it, and it's overpowering for the radiator to keep the car cool. So by utilizing the aluminum one, what it does is creates a lighter material, more surface area, and has a greater capacity for keeping the coolant. As you can see, there's not a whole lot to these engines to begin with, particularly the radiator. It's going to be held down by 4 bolts, 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom, and the radiator hoses themselves. Now, unlike most radiators, there's not the valve at the bottom to drain the fluids. So what you have to do is actually release the hoses, and the fluid will come out it that way. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to release the top hoses and then the bottom hoses to let the fluids drain out, and then we'll get replacing the radiator. This particular radiator has an electric fan already installed on it. The stock fans were smaller. There was 2 of them across there. Your particular Spitfire may have an electric fan. It may have one that is attached to the shaft over here. There's a couple different types available. So this one, like I say, has already been replaced out with an electrical fan, but we're going to remove this. There's 4 bolts, one here, one down there, over here and there. We're going to take those off, remove the electric fan, and then we should be right at the radiator. Okay, so we've disconnected the radiator, the fan, and from the radiator, and now you can see that's loose. We can push that aside, and what we're going to do is unscrew these 4 bolts here that hold the side of the radiator to the frame, 2 on each side. We've got the hoses removed, the electric fan. Now there's 4 bolts that hold the radiator in place. There was 2 on the left side and there's 2 on the right side. These here are connected to the exhaust tanks. This is for California emissions, these red tanks here. So you can see the 2 brackets there. We're just going to remove those, and then the radiator should just pull right forward and out. So we've removed the 2 side bolts from each side, the left and the right, and now you'll see down here at the bottom there's those bracket bolts. So we're going to undo those, and that should be the last 2 bolts holding the radiator in. The radiator is all unbolted, both sides, all the brackets, so now we should just have to muscle it, get the fan out of the way, and pull it out of the brackets and up. This side is clear. Let me come over to the other side. Let's see if we can get it loose. Brackets off. Now, back over here. Should just slide right out. Just like this. So there we go. There's the old one with the 2 side brackets that we'll switch out. Put the new one back in. One thing that you want to keep from the old radiator is these side gaskets, okay? These are like just rubber spacers. They'll go right over the new ones. They just come right off. And there's 4 of those. You want to keep them for each side. Okay, so you've got the spacers, the rubber grommets from the other older one. You just put them on with the pulsar. And they're like that. The side brackets are going to go right over it. The rubber is going to work as a spacer for it, and then we're going to put it right back in. We've got the grommets on the new radiator and the side brackets installed on both sides, and now all we need to do is slip this back in place, straight down, push it in, and we'll start putting the bolts back together, putting the hoses on, and just reassembling everything that we took apart. It took a little persuading, but we were able to get the new radiator in there. It all lines up. The old pins go where the pins go. There's going to be a couple bolt holes to line up. The brackets down at the bottom there will line up. And then we'll re-bolt the electric fan back in, okay? So it'll take a few minutes, get all that bolted in. We'll connect the hoses, and we'll see if we got everything working right. We're all cleaned up. We've got everything back in. As you can see, the radiator's in place. All the bolts on the side and to the brackets have been reconnected. The hoses have been connected. Everything's all tightened down to make sure we're good. So now all we have left to do is to add the coolant back into the system and run it through. One thing I like to do is to add what they call a super coolant to it. This just helps keep it cooler than the radiator fluid by itself. So we're going to add the fluid, we're going to add this, and then we'll give it a go and see how everything's working. Got her started. We're looking around at the hoses. Everything looks good. We're going to take a quick look below. Nothing dripping. So we're going to watch the temperature, top it off with a little bit more fluid, and hopefully everything's going to be great. All right, so we've got everything back together. We've got our fluids topped off. Now it's time for the best part, take it out for a test drive. Well, we've been out running for about 20 minutes now. A little bit of stop and go traffic, a little bit of cruising. As you can see, our heat gauge, temperature gauge is still looking pretty good. Before the change, it was usually running over the halfway mark, a little beyond. And now you can see we're only at the quarter of the way. So it looks like everything's running pretty good. And I guess we're gonna have to call this one a success. So for now, we'll take off. Happy trails.